After a series of public complaints of abuse of power, a small-town cop had his law enforcement certification revoked in 2018.
But the story doesn't end there. Now one of the victims has filed a lawsuit in civil court. The same man whose case helped the State Law Enforcement Officer Standards Commission come to the decision to remove Jimmy Murphy as the police chief of Lake Norden.
In tonight's KELOLAND News investigation, for the first time, we show you the video evidence of when Murphy tased a driver and why that driver says Lake Norden officials must also be held accountable.
Lake Norden, population 502, doesn't see much crime. Nicholas Weeks lives at Lake Poncet and routinely goes into town to pick up his mail. It was on a trip to the post office in February of 2016 that Lake Norden's new chief of police, Jimmy Murphy, pulled Weeks over.
He said that I blew through that stop sign.
Weeks claims he did stop,
trying to get me to get out of the vehicle and to roll my windows down, and I told him I could hear him just fine. I didn't know who he was. He didn't identify himself. I couldn't see a badge.
Now, the one thing you need to know about Weeks is that he is a gun guy and carries them at all times. He's never been in trouble with the law. When Jimmy Murphy asked him if he had weapons in his car, he said he did.
And he yelled, "I thought I asked you if you had anything you're not supposed to have. And don't you think a loaded gun is something you're not supposed to have?" And it's like, no, I'm a concealed carry permit holder. A loaded gun is something I'm supposed to have.
Weeks eventually got out of the car.
Were you afraid?
I was a little bit, yes. I was concerned that I might have to defend myself because I didn't think this guy was a legitimate police officer the way he was acting. So I told him that, and I told him that I was going to make a complaint to the sheriff's office, and he got really upset at that. And he said that, you know, the sheriff can't save you from me. This is how I run my traffic stops.
Murphy ticketed Weeks for running a stop sign, and Weeks complained to the city council. He also appealed the ticket all the way to the South Dakota Supreme Court. In his defense, Weeks requested Murphy's dash cam video to try to prove he didn't run the stop sign. He never got it.
They agreed to turn over evidence, which they did not.
According to the transcript of the hearing deciding on Murphy's certification, Murphy admitted that there was no video evidence of the traffic stop. Commissioner Tom Woolman pointed out that Murphy testified twice in court that it was recorded. Woolman confronted Murphy saying, quote, "This is unequivocal testimony where you say everything from that point on was recorded, everything, but you never checked it." Murphy replied, "I didn't check it, no." Lake Norden City Attorney Todd Boyd also testified during the hearing that he never asked Murphy to download the dashcam video, saying it wouldn't have captured anything anyway, even though he never saw it. The panel questioned Boyd, saying, "So you're really basically taking the fall for Jimmy today?" Boyd answers, "It's a decision I made, not his." The Supreme Court ordered a retrial, and the case was eventually dismissed when the prosecution took too long to respond. Fast forward to November of 2017, and Murphy pulls Weeks over once again. This time, Weeks was armed with dash cams in the front and back of his vehicle. Murphy told him he'd made an illegal U-turn.
It is not illegal because it's not posted. You aren't going to harass me. You aren't going to bother me again.
They put signs up 6 months afterwards. And this was after, you know, Jimmy Murphy was selectively enforcing this no U-turn thing against people who either had problems with him or the city.
Doesn't everybody in a small town make U-turns?
Yes.
Murphy also told Weeks he had a headlight out, but Weeks didn't believe him and called the Hamlin County Sheriff's Office for help. He says he had his phone in one hand and his voice recorder in another.
I'd like to report an incident here. I just got pulled over by Jimmy Murphy in Lake Norden, and he's harassing me.
The exchange escalated when Weeks refused to sign a ticket for having a headlight out.
If you don't sign it, I'm going to arrest you.
In his response to Weeks' lawsuit, Jimmy Murphy says in court documents that Weeks was uncooperative and that he placed Murphy in fear for his safety. Weeks refused Murphy's orders to get out of his car.
Let me go! Let me go!
Step out of the vehicle.
Do not touch me!
When Murphy fired his taser.
Do it now.
Let me go! Ah!
Step out of the vehicle.
Weeks' mother, June, was on the phone listening to the whole thing.
I can't!
Step out.
I can't!
We didn't know that it was a taser, or at first. We thought it was a gun. When he said he shot me, we thought it was a gun.
In his written response, Murphy says he was using reasonable force by use of a taser.
He tased me while I was inside my vehicle twice, and then he threw me from my vehicle, ripped me out of the vehicle, and threw me on the ground here into oncoming traffic where I was almost run over by a pickup truck. He then jumped on me and was hitting me with the taser and punching me in the kidneys.
Weeks was treated in the ambulance for his injuries.
He shot me twice. One barb stuck directly in my heart, and then the other barb didn't stick all the way, and it was flopping around, and it burnt holes in my skin in a circular pattern all the way up to my neck.
While Weeks did not testify at the hearing, Murphy's interactions with Weeks helped lead to his decertification. But that wasn't the only thing. 2 other traffic stops were also used as evidence, where Murphy was accused of lying about video evidence or wrongfully issuing a ticket. Another complaint involved Murphy acting outside of his jurisdiction and confronting and detaining a 14-year-old boy who was lawfully in possession of a compound bow. Murphy denied all of the allegations.
Do you believe that Jimmy Murphy was lying during that hearing?
Certainly, I had questions of his credibility. I certainly believed the folks that came in from the community and talked about the abusive behavior. They were credible to me.
Then Attorney General Marty Jackley sat on the panel which unanimously voted to decertify Murphy.
We can't have a situation where law enforcement is making misrepresentations on evidence. There was sufficient evidence introduced about those misrepresentations, enough for me to vote to take away that certification.
Murphy had seized Weeks' guns and he went back to the police station to get them. Weeks recorded the exchange.
After further consideration, and I contacted the state's attorney last night, okay? And I further contacted the sheriff. I am seizing your property for evidence as of now. I have every right to do so.
Only Hamlin County State's Attorney John Delzer had actually told Murphy he had no right to keep the guns. In the hearing, Delzer said, "I don't have the authority to keep those guns as evidence, and I'm not going to allow you to do that." Delzer went on to tell the panel that after that, he stopped prosecuting any cases from Jimmy Murphy. But not everyone agreed with removing Murphy from the job. Both Lake Norton's mayor, Jason Aho, and city attorney, Todd Boyd, wanted to keep him. That's one of the reasons Weeks is now suing the city and its attorney in civil court.
People were bringing complaints to him directly, and he was ignoring it. So the city of Lake Norton was throwing our complaints in the garbage.
I think lessons learned is you need to listen to the community. I mean, obviously concerns were being raised about being abusive to the public. But we can't have that in law enforcement.
And I'm not the only one that this happened to. And a lot of those people, their cases may not have been severe, but their rights were still violated when they were pulled over for things they didn't do.
The city of Lake Norton hired Murphy, despite the fact that he had pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct after bringing a gun to his daughter's Sioux City school, resulting in a lockdown. After serving 6 months probation, that charge was dismissed. In court documents, the city of Lake Norton and Jimmy Murphy both deny all of Weeks' allegations. Lake Norton also says it has government immunity and did not violate Weeks' rights. The city and Murphy have called for Weeks' case to be dismissed and that he pays their legal costs. All of the defendants in this civil case have denied on-camera interviews.